You don't fall in love. You fall into a waiting room. You're staring at a screen that hasn't lit up in 6 hours, wondering if your last text was too much or too little. How long have you been sitting there, waiting for someone who doesn't even see you? You're dissecting a 3-word reply like it's a Da Vinci Code, and you call that passion. But let's be honest. You aren't in a relationship with a person. You're in a relationship with a ghost. A version of them that only exists when they're bored or lonely. What if I told you that your type isn't a preference? It's a symptom. Today, we are dissecting the quiet, dark addiction of choosing people who never choose you, and why, deep down, you're actually terrified of the people who do. And by the end of this video, you'll understand why you feel attracted to people who emotionally reject you. The almost relationship is the most dangerous drug on the market. Why? Because it's unfinished. The human brain is wired for closure. When someone rejects you outright, it hurts, but you heal. But when someone gives you 10% hope and 90% silence, your brain stays locked in the loop, like a slot machine that might pay out next pull. That's them. You're the coin. Do you find yourself refreshing your phone, hoping they'll show up? Every "hey, sorry I've been ghost" is just enough of a payout to keep you sitting in that chair for another 6 months. Quick question, why does chaos feel like love to you? You say you want a good person, but when a good person shows up, someone who texts back, someone who is consistent, someone who is available, you feel a lack of spark. Let's translate that. When you say, "there's no spark," what you're often saying is, "this person doesn't trigger my anxiety, so I don't recognize this as love." Because anxiety feels familiar. Maybe love in your childhood arrived randomly. Some days you were praised, other days you were ignored. Here's the brutal truth: your nervous system confuses chaos with chemistry. You learn something dangerous. Love is unpredictable. Love must be earned. Love requires performance. So now as an adult, you don't trust calm love. You trust emotional roller coasters. You aren't choosing chaos. You're choosing what feels like home. Let's get brutal. Sometimes it isn't about them at all. It's about you. Let me tell you a story about a friend. And by friend, I mean me a few years ago. I was seeing someone who was the human equivalent of a flickering light bulb. One day they were all in, talking about trips we'd take and books we'd read together. The next, read at 2:14 p.m. No reply for 3 days. I remember sitting at a restaurant, waiting for them. We had loose plans. That classic, non-committal let's hang out around 7 text. 7 o'clock came. 7:30. I sat there, phone face down. Looking at the blank screen felt like staring at a wound. I wasn't chasing them. I was chasing a version of myself that I thought could make them stay. But my ego was screaming. I stayed in that chair for an hour because I felt like if I left, I was losing. If I stayed and they finally showed up, I won. I had successfully convinced a ghost to materialize. I was literally auditioning for a person who hadn't even bought a ticket to the show. I eventually walked home in the rain. How cinematic, right? And I realized something that changed everything. I wasn't chasing them. I was chasing the version of myself that was good enough to make them stay. I wanted the win of changing their mind. I wanted to be the exception to their emotional unavailability. I wanted to be so perfect that they had no choice but to choose me. But you can't perfect your way into someone's heart if they've already closed the door. I was trying to win a game where the prize was a person who didn't even respect my time. Ask yourself right now, are you sitting at a metaphorical dinner table waiting for someone who hasn't even left their house? Are you staying in the game just because you're afraid of the score if you walk away? You've decided that this person's yes is the only thing that can prove you're attractive, worthy, or special. They've become the trophy. The more they pull away, the more valuable the trophy becomes. You're not in love with them, you're in a power struggle with yourself. You think, if I can just make them love me, then I'll finally be enough. But here is the dark truth. Even if they chose you tomorrow, you'd probably lose interest in a month. Because the thrill wasn't the person. The thrill was the chase. You're dating a CGI version of them. In reality, they're inconsistent, flaky, scrolling memes while you cry in the shower. You've turned their silence into depth because admitting the truth hurts too much. You see them as a complex puzzle, a mystery waiting to be solved by the right love. But look closer. They aren't a mystery. They're a pattern. They are a person who chooses comfort over connection every single time. While you're crafting a paragraph that explains your entire soul, they're sitting on their couch, mindlessly double-tapping a meme, wondering what they're going to order for dinner. They aren't incapable of love. They are just unwilling to do the work of it. You've turned their silence into depth, because it's easier than admitting they just aren't that interested. You're grieving a future that was never actually on the table. You're mourning a version of them that does not exist. Stop looking at their potential and start looking at their patterns. Potential is a lie. Patterns are the truth. While you are busy being a placeholder for someone who isn't sure about you, you are invisible to the people who would be sure. You are shrinking your life to fit into the cracks of theirs. You stop hobbies. You stop seeing friends. You keep your schedule open just in case they call. You are treating yourself like a subsidiary while they are treating themselves like a CEO. Think about the versions of you that have died while you were waiting for them to choose you. The creative project you never started because you were too busy overanalyzing a text. The gym sessions you skipped because you wanted to be available if they called last minute. The family dinners where you were physically present, but mentally 50 miles away, checking your phone under the table. You aren't just losing time, you're losing identity. Every time you prioritize their maybe over your certainty, you are telling your subconscious that you are second class. You are training yourself to be a supporting character in someone else's movie. A movie where they haven't even given you a name in the credits. You have to realize that maybe is a no. In a world of 8 billion people, I'm not sure is a rejection. Healing begins the moment you stop asking, why don't they like me? And start asking, why do I like someone who doesn't see my value? Raise your tolerance for boredom. Peace feels like boredom when you're used to trauma. Stay in the boredom until it starts to feel like safety. The right person will never make you feel like you're auditioning for a role in your own life. They will meet you at the door. Stop chasing the people who are running away. Turn around. Walk home to yourself. The message you're waiting for isn't coming. And that is the best news you've heard all year, because it means you are finally free. If this felt like a mirror you weren't ready to look into, subscribe. We're going to keep breaking the glass until you see who you really are. Walk away from the table. The meal was never coming anyway. The moment you stop auditioning, you stop attracting people who need an audience. Who have you been auditioning for that never even bought a ticket?